up this morning with our Roundup panel. Grammy-nominated Houston gospel singer Kim Burrell called homosexuality perverted in a now viral video. Ellen DeGeneres canceled her appearance on her show, and here locally, TSU has axed her radio show. Her show aired Sundays on KTSU and was called Bridging the Gap. Her comments come at a time when many in the black church are wrestling with reconciling their faith while addressing homosexuality. So what does Burrell's sermon reveal, and were the actions taken against her too harsh? That's our topic this half hour, and as always, we like to hear from you on our Fox 26 Facebook page. You can also send us a tweet at Sally Mack, Fox 26. Joining us live in our newsroom is our Fox 26 senior legal analyst Chris Tritico, Democratic media consultant Mustafa Tamiz, and Republican strategist and public policy analyst Jackie Bally. Good morning, all.
Good morning.
So do you think that the actions taken were too harsh?
You know, let's first talk about the First Amendment aspect of this. Kim Burrell had every right to speak her mind, especially at a church when she's giving a sermon. Our First Amendment protects her ability to take the pulpit and speak as she sees fit, and she's protected in doing that. But Ellen DeGeneres also has the right to run her own show, and Texas Southern University has the right to run their own radio programs. And so everyone's rights were protected here. We may not agree with Ellen DeGeneres, and I don't, and we may not agree with Texas Southern University and their programming decisions, Jackie Bally, but the First Amendment was protected. But I think Ellen DeGeneres missed an opportunity here in canceling her instead of speaking with her in an audience that's much bigger than Kim Burrell will ever have.
I agree. I think Ellen should have taken this opportunity to bring her on the show and question her, especially since Ellen is such a beloved figure in the homosexuality community. To answer some of the questions Sally had in her introductory statements, I don't think the black community is grappling with homosexuality, because polls are still showing that a majority of blacks still oppose the union of homosexuality. Where you see the difference is those same people, we still don't want to see homosexualities discriminated against. It's usually based on your religious beliefs or on your faith. And so Kimberly Burrell, she is preaching in her church. She has a strong faith, and those who have a strong faith feel that homosexuality, in particular gay marriage, goes against their religious beliefs.
Well, the country's changing on gay marriage. That's clear that the country's views on gay marriage have changed and modified. The Supreme Court approved it. I think that argument is over. But don't you think that Ellen DeGeneres, with a huge audience and what she has, missed an opportunity? Now, Ellen said, look, I've been through this too many times. I'm paraphrasing. I've been through this too many times, and I don't have to put up with this on my own show, basically.
Yeah, and like you said, she has that right. I think the bigger issue is we should all take a lesson from Pope Francis, who's really set a different tone about this. He said you may disagree with somebody, even whether it's homosexuality and many other issues, but it's a tenor in which that we talk about these things. And I think people of faith that sometimes struggle with these type of issues should take a cue from him, because he's setting a new moral tone of this divisive type of conversations. We should check ourselves, because in essence, you know, he who throws the first stone. And I think that's something worthy of talking about.
Let me go to Sally. She's monitoring our social media.
Yep, and our viewer Ben on Facebook really agrees with what you guys are saying, that Ellen DeGeneres missed a huge opportunity here. We'll pull up his comment for you. He says Ellen DeGeneres had a perfect opportunity to bridge the gap by discussing Kim Burrell's sermon rather than have an open dialogue with those who think differently. There are many who rather just shut it down. So really echoing what you all said, that she should have taken this opportunity to bring her on and talk about it.
And that was my first thought when I saw this story, that Ellen DeGeneres had this opportunity with the huge audience she has to really hit this issue hard and talk about it. But once I read Ellen's thoughts, I see Ellen's point that I've been through this too many times, and I moved past these fights, and I don't have to do it on my own show anymore. But what about what Mustafa said? You know, the Pope has taken this position. Why don't we look at this issue on a softer tone? And did Kim come out maybe a little bit too harsh on this?
Well, she felt she was in her home. She felt while she was in our church, and she was making her own statements, and I guarantee you a majority of the people in that church agreed with her. You notice whenever we did the polling when Houston tried to pass our equal rights ordinance, a majority of people didn't feel like they wanted to discuss it or talk about it, but yet an overwhelming number of Houstonians voted against it. It's because they did take a softer tone, but they still don't believe in certain things because of their religious beliefs.
Well, I mean, and Ellen did the same thing. She looked at her audience and she looked at herself and said, you were nominated for a Grammy, you didn't win a Grammy, and I have my show and I've got a much bigger platform, I'm not doing it, right? So if everybody basically chooses to their own side and sticks to their own worldview, then we never have that common conversation.
Well, that's the problem I'm having with this whole issue, is Kim brings it up, and then Ellen DeGeneres takes the opportunity not to talk about it at all.
Well, that's what I mean, that it's, in essence, we have to change the tone. I think when you take a harsh tone and when you make someone wrong from the get-go, then it makes it very difficult for people, and that's a responsibility that each of us has.
And I also think what you said earlier, because of all of the Supreme Court rulings, you're going to continue to see these discussions more and more, because you see so many constituents feel that leaders are telling us how we should believe, but our Bible tells us something differently.
All right, I'm not hearing anything. Where are we? I'm not getting any feedback here. Right?
Well, look, I mean, and I think some people take a very fundamental view of the scriptures, and others take a more broader view of the scriptures. I, for one, regardless of the faith tradition, I am watching Pope Francis, because what he's talking about is not interpretation, but the tone and tenor in which we talk about scripture. I think that's very valuable.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. We'll be back in about 15 minutes with another really good topic.
Yep, we're going to talk about the 85th Texas legislature kicking off this week. We'll see you guys then.